venue because it's looking for refurb. So we're going to meet in Rockfield, the Bone Pub. But Guy will circulate.
Yeah, the Baum Pub. I will
well.
circulate the details again. I mean, I put it on the WhatsApp, but I will put it in the.
What's a Baum? B-A-U-M. What is it?
I don't know.
It must be a something.
Oh,
is it?
Yeah. It's a historic little corner of Rochdale, anyway.
So I think the first thing you've been asked already, John, to give us a few words about the future of or the current state of AUK.
Sure. Yeah. Is it me now?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you very much for coming. I'm glad to see that the northern tradition of meeting in pubs is continuing, alive and well. So yeah, I'm currently described as the president of Atheism UK, and our honorary president is Professor A.C. Grayling, and that sort of came about by an accident, because forgetting that I was the president, I was in a conversation, a video like this, a chat with him, and I suddenly had it come into my head, why not invite him to become an honorary president? Which I was not expecting him to give a response on the spot, but he leapt at it. So,
Yeah.
so I made him the honorary president of AUK, which meant that there was a bit of a clash between our titles. So for a while, I was calling myself the dishonorable president. And but I'm about to be redesignated the executive president, I think, when we get our EGM sorted and the new constitution adopted. So where is AUK right now? Well, it's growing. Since I've been in post, we've gained about another fifth of our membership. So maybe a quarter. I'm not sure entirely of how fast it's growing, but the trend is upward, which is good. And we've got, we're healthy in terms of finance too. We've got money in the bank. And one thing which I seem to have introduced more than was happening before is events. So we've staged a number of events. We haven't managed to do one in the Manchester area yet, but we've done 2 in London and 1 in the Midlands. And on occasions, we've had some very good guests, you know, double A-lister, Richard Dawkins, maybe single A-lister, Lawrence Krauss. And I won't embarrass others by giving them an alphabet.
We've had Grayling as well, of course.
We had Grayling, yes. And we've had Mariam Namazi, and we've had the president of Humanism UK. So I can't, he's got a double-barreled name, hasn't he? Can't think of his name right now. But yes, we've had some noteworthy guests, and we've had some successful events. On a couple of occasions, we sold out. And on each of these occasions, we've had a meal. So it's been sort of convivial. And people have said they've enjoyed it. So I'm pleased about that. And we've got another one coming. This one is called Hitch Mass, and I'll speak more about this later on this evening. And it's at the Royal Geographic Society venue, which is in Kensington Gore. It's on the corner of Kensington Gore and Exhibition Row, opposite the Albert Memorial. It's a very prestigious location. And the cast for that includes me, I'm very much down at the bottom, and Lawrence Krauss, Richard Dawkins, Douglas Murray, not everyone's cup of tea, but he's a very good speaker, and a former pupil of the great Hitch himself, which of course is why we call it Hitch Mass. It's on the anniversary of his death, 15th of December 2011. So we've sadly missed him, and this is our commemoration to respect his life, his great life as an anti-theist. But the top of the bill is Stephen Fry. Now, that's AAA list, isn't it? And I hope you're all going to come. There's a problem. It's very expensive because I had to step down from organizing this one due to the unfortunate events in my personal life, which I won't bore you with now, but it took my eye off the ball. And so I handed over the lead to Lawrence, because as you know, we've been staging these events as a co-sponsorship activity between Atheism UK and Lawrence's Origins project. So this one, its Origins project is in the lead. Never mind, I'll say some more about that later on tonight, but we can't give you our usual deal of 50% off the ticket price because I'm not in control. And the ticket prices start at 50 quid.
I'm serious.
50.
You froze, John. So could you repeat the last sentence or so?
Yeah. I can't give you a 50% deal. And the ticket prices start at 50 quid. They go up to 149 if you want to sit in the front, you know. So there you go. If you want to buy tickets, they're available. I can send you the link. But it will be
You better
videoed.
send us the link. Yeah.
It will be
I'll
videoed.
circulate the link.
It will be videoed. We will have a copy of the video when it's edited, and we will obviously put that out probably in our usual way, because as you may be aware, what we do is upload to our channel and give out the link to our members for a week before making it available to anyone. So we'll certainly do that. There's some other ramifications which may or may not occur, so no point me talking about them at the moment. So there you go. That's AUK, the state of the party at the moment. I'm going to speak later about our campaign, so I won't go into that now. I'll just be repeating myself. You won't like that. So would you like me to do my presentation?
Do we have any questions or discussions on any of those matters?
No, that's fine.
No,
Yeah.
that's good. So, because I mean, we do have embryonic other local groups, but neither of them have really got off the ground as far as we can see.
That's true. Yes, I should have mentioned that.
What Manchester does today, the other places will do tomorrow.
Nicely said, Guy.
Apart from the wonderful, thriving northern atheists, we're trying to start up a group based around Bristol. Western atheists. Not sure.
I mean, the advantage, the thing about northern atheists is we refuse not to exist.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to, David, John.
Well, the other thing is that the pity they didn't take out my advice, because we started off, only 3 were on the committee. There were 4 and 1 resigned before anything happened. And I said, just go on, get a meeting, get started.
Yeah, let's get going.
I think he's
Well done. Yeah, very well done.
Yeah.
And the other one is based in the Midlands. But the trouble with the Midlands is, whereas Manchester is sort of nuclear, it's a centre which is coherent. And the Midlands isn't so much. It's lots of smallish cities dotted about, all a few miles away from each other. So they can't decide where to meet.
I mean, that's the same in Manchester as well, Greater Manchester. Yeah, exactly the
I
same.
also point out that Manchester is actually anti-nuclear.
Yes, okay.
God.
In conurbation terms is what I meant. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
We've
Okay.
had a thriving discussion, incidentally, on our WhatsApp group today.
Yeah.
It's just
About Israel and Iran.
about Israel and yeah, true. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, the Middle
Well-
East again. Mm.
so yes, are we ready to?
Yes.
Yep.
Go.
Polarization. Yep.
I need to share my screen because I've got a presentation.
I
Do you
better,
need to
I
permit?
better give you permission if I can find the.
Yep.
Is it under more as well? No, it's not there. Oh God. Share screen, there it is. Yeah. No, wait a minute. No, I don't want that. I don't want to share my screen. I want to multiple participants. There you are. I've given you permission to share the screen.
Great. You have to make me a host. That's right. Or co-host.
Have I done that as well?
That's right.
Yeah, good.
Okay. So we have, there you go. Let me see if I can make this work. I might have to make it in a separate window. That's the title. And this is the first slide. I'm going to take you romping through the history of mankind, if you'll bear with me. So you know that we all began out of the African Rift Valley as hunter-gatherers. At the time, we would have slept in trees like the chimpanzees, and we would have had very little in the way of possessions, as if you're roaming about all day, shooting wildlife or gathering herbs and roots, then you can't carry a lot of stuff. So probably the prized possession would have been a sharp stick or something like that. And of course, the benefit of not having many possessions is there's not much to disagree about. You can't thieve things. So I think I might need to go, if I can go back to my main play picture. Yeah, the trouble is I can't see my notes if I do that. Never mind. Then, of course, early man discovered that they could actually grow things or keep cattle. And that's when the problem started, if you like, because once you put down roots, then you begin to possess bits of land and you've got to defend them or fight over them. And you can have your livestock stolen, your crop stolen. So we've got to blame the farmers for wrecking society the way they have. So as you can see in that picture, there's fields, soil is worked, there's pastures, and there's water sources. They become an important resource that gets very contentious. And then we develop to a sort of hamlet, mini village, where there's not just a family, as might have been involved in hunting and gathering, but an extended family. You know, we're now looking after the elderly who can't hunt and gather for themselves. We've got cousins and aunts and uncles. So we're grouping together into some sort of early settlement. You can see in this picture, which is just made up, of course, there's even a sort of fence around it. And so you might think that there's almost hunting rights over the nearby territory. So it's not properly agrarian and what you might call the beginning of civilization yet. But we come on to more permanent settlements where you can see there's a church in the background of that picture, but people are specializing. Instead of everybody having to do everything, like do the hunting or do the gathering or whatever, these people are, some of them are doing the woodwork, some of them are handling skins and making things like shoes, some of them are building houses and putting thatches on them to keep the rain out. And of course, the very beginning of a faith is popping up, because at this point, you've got a hierarchy, you've got a leader who is the one who can express himself well, and that therefore he can influence people. And that's the beginning, in my view, of the, the scourge of religion. So this is the start of the crafts, the commerce. We start trading, and parishes were now extending beyond our immediate family or even our extended family into neighbors and forming an alliance. Okay. And then, of course, there was the Industrial Revolution. So people stopped expecting to have to work on the land. It became possible to work in factories and work on products that could be even traded internationally. And of course, there was the woolen industry, the cotton industry, and later the steel industry. And this meant that people started to migrate from the countryside to the cities. And instead of expecting to be paid in a sack of corn, then money became the currency that was offered as a payment. And of course, although we were moving up a level to the next stage in I don't know what you might call it, economic development, still we couldn't travel very far. So the horizons were restricted, which meant that there was a lot of inbreeding. But next, we get this. I wonder if I can make this slide work, because it's, let's try play. There you go. So we get, first of all, the bicycle. Oh, that happened rather quickly, didn't it? Then the locomotive, and finally the jumbo jet. And of course, it all did happen relatively quickly in terms of the overall history of mankind, which might go back 300,000 years, depending on who you listen to. So those developments meant that we could start meeting people from further afield. There was outbreeding. And I don't know if you watch my Global Atheist News, which is a show that I do every week on a Saturday at 8 p.m. But an item in it last week, and Guy was on the spin-off show with me, which is called Views on the News, because the news is meant to be delivered dispassionately, but Views on the News is where we express our opinions, okay? And one of the items that we analysed on Sunday was the news that 50%, I think that was the figure, of disabled children, disabled babies are born to Muslim Pakistani families in the UK because they marry their cousins. And if you do that repeatedly over the generations, then obviously lots of genetic deformities increases. And it's becoming a big problem in our education and in our health service, trying to cope with all of these disadvantaged children. But of course, travel meant that we started mixing up, and the jumbo jet enabled us to mix up with different ethnicities from around the world. Suddenly it became relatively affordable to travel thousands of miles. And the result of that, of course, is everybody saw the opportunity to move from their native land, which may not be a very desirable environment, to one of the countries where they could expect to be more fortunate, more opportunities, better standard of living. And so we got immigration. But when these people come, or wherever they travel to, they may be extremely useful members of society, and we need immigrants because, of course, we're an aging population ourselves. So we don't have enough young people. We're not generating enough young people to look after our elderly. So I'm not against immigrants at all, but what I am against is them bringing their faith culture. And I can't pretend to be any better, because when you think about how the English colonized, I'm saying English, I should say British perhaps, but the leadership was English. And there were Irish, Welsh, and the Scottish components, but of course it was largely led by people from the major ports like London, Liverpool and Bristol. So these were English ports going out and colonizing. And when we got to wherever we were going, we set up little Englands. We didn't try to integrate. So we're just as bad as anybody else. Right, so moving on. That, of course, travel wrecked parochialism. Instead of thinking in terms of our horizon being the edge of the village, suddenly our horizons are global. Unfortunately, after a while, there's a sort of anti-parochialism that sets up, because although the boundaries have extended, we still tend to think in terms of us and them. And this is a little graphic from the Sydney Morning Herald about that happening to Australia back in 2021. There are people who consider themselves to be more New South Walesian than just, Australian as a generalism. And if you take this to the humorous extreme, there's the world according to Americans. Because, as you know, America has it's been insular, it's been user-centric, I suppose, would be the way of describing it. They've held they call them international events, like the World Football Competition, American football, or the World Baseball Competition, or the World Miss World Competition. And they just feature different states. They don't feature any other country. They are coming out of that a bit. But I mean, if you go back to my youth, it was quite funny the way they used the word world and only applied it to them. So here you go. This is a bit of a mockery of the world according to Americans. I don't know whether you can see that. I don't know. Let me make it big. You might be able to see how the cartoonist has described the various bits of the world. I like.
You have to read them out, John. I can't see it, certainly.
No?
Read a couple out for humorous effect.
Yeah, sure. Well, America says, America won, we're number one. And then Canada is described as uninhabited. Alaska is more America, and Hawaii is more America. But then Mexico says they do our laundry and lawns. South America just says coffee comes from here, I think. Then there's the Bahamas, and I suppose that's meant to be the West Indies. Cruise ships go here. I'm not sure whether it's meant to be Greenland or Iceland or just the general tundra, but that's labeled Santa. Then Europe, the yellow bit, is described as pussies. As you know, we're the liberal yellow-bellied pinkos, aren't we? Probably mixed too many metaphors there, but
yeah.
And then the red bit is communists. What you might call Southern Europe, I guess they mean Italy, Greece, and Albania, places like that, Turkey even. They're called evildoers. China the blue bit is labeled, they make our stuff. Japan is TVs and cameras. There's some offshore bits of Asia there, which is called more evildoers. And then there's the Indian subcontinent, which is labeled call centers. Africa gets the description, zoo animals come from here. And Australia gets described as kangaroos. Kangaroos! And then Antarctica is just labeled coal. So there's the world according to Americans. Meanwhile, in the real world, of course, we've got global villages that many of our international cities have turned into. You can go to, I forget how many languages are spoken in London at the moment, but it used to be 300, probably more now. And I knew that fact because I used to be a teacher, and we were informed that some of the schools in London had to cope with an intake at age 5 from 300 different dialects, and try to get them to fit in together and make a class. A very difficult job. But a lot of our major cosmopolitan cities are just that. They're cosmopolitan. Doesn't matter where you pick. That one's in India, I think. But you can see there's English writing everywhere. There's Lord Krishna. There's exotic rooftop restaurants. There's Club India. It's all very heavily English oriented, and there's public mixture with scooters and tuk-tuks and different sorts of garb. You can see quite a lot of Western garb down there, but some saris as well. So we're all mixed up, basically, thanks to the jumbo jet mainly. So what's happened now is we all live cheek by jowl. The world is at our doorstep. Although we've tended to keep these separate cultures, despite being close neighbors, there's little integration. That's a shame, because it leads to conflict. And you'd think that the internet might have gone some way towards softening this disaster, because now we don't even have to go outside our door. We can communicate like I am to you. I'm on the south coast and you're in the Manchester area. That's a good, by my reckoning, 6 hours drive from me. So you'd think that the internet would make everything hunky-dory, but it hasn't. What it's meant is the clash has become heightened because of it. The trouble with science and technology is it makes everything easier. That doesn't mean it's going to be better. It can be easier and bad. And so you see all this social media argument, and we've tried to legislate against it with our hate speech laws, but that's a very gray area. How do we cope with that? And we're only just now starting to prosecute, oops, prosecute, tip of the slung. We're only just now starting to prosecute people for being offensive on the internet. So what about Dunbar's number? I don't know if you've met this. I think he was a sociologist, Dunbar. Somebody, one of you, listen, I know I'm in the company of some of the greatest minds in England, if not Europe. And I want to have the benefit of this communication. So if you know more about Dunbar than I do, which wouldn't be difficult, pipe up. So anyway, this graphic shows that we have our ego is, oh, it's a terrible thing, because we wake up as a newborn, our eyes gradually come into focus, and then we realize we're at the center of everything. We're looking out. And that's the start of the ego. And it takes a long while for us to learn that we aren't really the most important thing in the universe. We've got to combat that egocentricity that seems to be inborn by nature. And gradually, we discover that there's a few very important people in our lives. Dunbar calls them intimates, and he's given that number 1.5. So it's probably mummy, because she's got the breasts, so we need the milk from her. And then dad, because he's only around some of the time. And then if you go to the next ring outwards, there's 5 people later in life who become our close friends. People we grow up with, we play with, we meet up with a lot. Then we get best friends, the next ring, 15 of them. Good friends. Have you got 50 good friends? I wish I could claim to have 50 good friends. 150 friends. Well, these, if you take that in terms of social media meaning of the word friends, I've certainly got that. they're people I know, not necessarily in terms of, you know, shaking hands with, but people I'm aware of and have engaged in conversation with. 500 people are acquaintances. We're aware of their existence, but we don't know much else about them. And then there's known names. Well, of course, we all know the name of Stephen Fry, but I don't think we claim that he was a personal friend. And then there's 5,000 known faces. Well, this includes the royal family and, you know, the presidents of several countries and so on. But the point is, that's what we've evolved to operate in, that melee. The problem is we've altered the world that we were evolved into. We don't live in an African plain, an African pampas. No, that's South America, isn't it? Savannah. We don't live in an African savannah with a few people who are involved in the same activities on a day-by-day basis anymore. We've changed this planet enormously. We have built cities, we've built bridges, we've got artificial islands, and we've managed to send things to, there's a helicopter, autonomous, on Mars. It's broken at the moment, but it did do pretty well. So we've been very powerful influences on our environment. The point is, can we cope with it? Is our brain up to this? And you might think, by the evidence, I'm going to show you a video now, that it isn't. Take a look. I can make this play. That was in Liverpool, miles away from Israel, miles away from Palestine, if it exists, which it probably doesn't historically. And yet, that protest, because of multi-ethnicity, is taking off here. And this you might regard to be a sort of a downside of globalism. Do we want these protests, which really, I don't know, they're not intimately concerned with us, but we do give them support, don't we? We give one side weapons, and I don't know, it's such a difficult problem. But I have a campaign to propose how AUK might react. I'm calling it Break Free. Because although religion is not the only cause of this sort of polarization worldwide, because there are other reasons, aren't there? There are other grievances like economic and resources and so on. But most of these divisions can be associated with a faith. And so you can label them as being a religious strife, even if that's not the main reason. The point is, the religious justification is the only unreal justification. Until they have got evidence for their God, there's no point. There's no point to any religion. There's no point to hating somebody who has a different faith. What are we doing? But unfortunately, we've been broken up into factions. We now argue over whether we're humanists, or whether we're atheists, or whether we're secularists, or whether we're agnostics. This is not helping our cause. But there is one thing, because, you know, divide and rule. The British Empire builders did it enough. We must know about it. There is one thing on which we can all agree. It's stupid to allow ourselves to be controlled by a mythical deity in the sky or wherever, a creator deity who has no evidential support, no evidential substantiation. That's something we can agree about, and we want to break free. So I'd like to propose that you join us in the campaign. Notice that it's not siding with any faith. It's not siding with the Israelis or the Palestinians. It's not siding with the Ukraine Orthodox Church against the Russian Orthodox Church. It's just break free. Let's get out of this mess. What do you think?
Oh, that's your talk. Well,
I thought you were going to go for the Queen record there, John. I want to break free.
Well,
yes,
I'd love to. I really want to get Sir Brian May on board. And in fact, if we can't get Sir Brian May on board, I've got our musical director. I say our, it's the Free Thought Productions channel. That it's my weekend job. You know, I do that for leisure. I do AUK during the week, but my pleasure, my activity on the weekend is Free Thought Productions. And I have a musical director who's an Australian, and he's a great musician. He's the guy who put Richard Dawkins' "What If You're Wrong" speech to music. I don't know if you've heard that, but you should. It's really good. Anyway, he's in the moment, he's writing the music to a facsimile of "I Want to Break Free." It's close enough to be recognizably in the same vein as the Queen record, but not close enough to be infringing any copyright. And my co-host, the lovely lady Tercia Duplessis, has written some lyrics based on, you know, the what's the poetic word? Come on, poets, tell me the name for the stanzas of the Queen record, but with the message that we want to break free from God. So
should we have a break?
Okay, we can have a break. Yeah,
Shall we have a break? I'm going to stop the recording.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink